Some breaking news to report. DeMarcus Cousins played in this weekend's All-Star game in the Big Easy, and it appears he's staying in New Orleans. According to reports, the Sacramento Kings have traded Cousins to the Pelicans. The Kings' three-time All-Star has been with Sacramento since being drafted 5th overall in 2010. Now, here are the details on the trade. The Kings will receive rookie Buddy Hield, former King Tyreek Evans, Langston Galloway, their 2017 first-round pick, and the 76ers second-round pick, which the Pelicans own. Now, reportedly, Omri Caspi is also part of the deal. All right, let's bring in a former King and CSN analyst, Doug Christie, who joins us by phone. Doug, entering the All-Star break, there were positive talks about Cousins signing an extension with the Kings. What changed?
You know, I think that a lot of pressure from all the different aspects. You know, Fallon, I do the Grant Napier show, and I would say 90% of the people that were calling in wanted to trade Cousins. I was a proponent always of keeping and building around DeMarcus Cousins. I don't know if the size and magnitude of a max deal is the difference in why things change, but, you know, the Kings are going for a culture and youth movement, and now you just have to stand back and see, you know, you got Bogdanovich coming over. Obviously, you know, you have some young guys on the team this year with Malachi Richardson, Skal Labissiere, Papagiannis. But this is going to be interesting to see how and where the Kings go with what Vlade wants to do and with what Coach Yeager wants to do.
So are you saying that Kings fans are going to be happy about this move?
Well, I'm just judging it off of 4 hours on the radio, Fallon, of people calling in, and I would say 90% of them were saying trade DeMarcus, and I would battle with them on the radio constantly because, like I said, I'm a proponent. I said that you have a top 10 talent in the NBA, a guy who requires a double team, and if you are going to trade him, you better get something back that is going to require the same type of thing. Now, it's going to be hard to gain the same type of, you know, person back or value back, should I say, Fallon, from the standpoint of who DeMarcus is, what he does, three-time All-Star, all those things. You obviously aren't going to be able to garner that in. But could it be that in a pick? Could it be that in the development of players? We're going to have to wait and see.
So, Doug, are you not happy about this trade then?
You know, like I said, for me, I would have figured out a way to work with DeMarcus. If all we're talking about is on-the-court antics as far as a player, a talent, I mean, bar none. You can't really name maybe 10 other players in the NBA that are as dominant as DeMarcus Cousins. Do you have to figure out how to work with him, what to put around him? I think that since DeMarcus has been a King, you've had many different coaches, you've had different ownership, you've had different general managers, and for the first time it felt like things were getting solid in that aspect. You know, Vlade's here now. You know, you look at everything that Vivek is doing, from building a new arena, all the different things. You bring in a well-seasoned coach in Coach Yeager. So when you put all of that together, I was just a proponent of saying, you know, figure out how to work with DeMarcus Cousins. But this is the direction that the Kings want to go, and now we have to play wait and see.
Yeah, well, why now? Why not wait until the trade deadline and get more leverage, Doug?
You know, that's a good question, but these deals are funny, Fallon. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. You know, what was the big change in all this? Because for many times, you know, Vivek has been very, you know, I want to keep Vlade, I want to keep Vlade. It seems that Cousins' camp was really caught off guard from what I'm hearing, so I don't know. Now, as far as Vlade going out and saying that I'm not going to trade him, you can't be mad at that because general managers have to do that all the time. That's just part of the business of keeping your cards close to your chest and understanding what you're doing in the big scheme of business. But, you know, it's a tough one, I would say, for Sacramento Kings fans who you finally had a player who wanted to be in Sacramento at the same time. And when you pair that with the standpoint that he was drafted, he was developed, he turned into an all-star, it's a tough thing to see DeMarcus go from my standpoint. But this is the route the organization wanted to take, and now you just have to wait and see. This is a very, very deep draft. You're going to get a first-round draft pick. It's top 3 protected. You do got a second-round draft pick, so you might find somebody there, as well as Bogdanovich coming over and the development of the young players. It seems like a youth and culture movement is what they wanted to do, and now it is that way in Sacramento.
Well, with this trade, the Kings do get Buddy Hield, and they were really high on him during this year's draft. Do you think that sealed the deal?
I'm not sure, because now what is, first everyone was calling in, like I said, trade. Now tomorrow I get on the radio and they're going to be saying Vlade didn't get the best deal possible. What is the best deal out there? That's always Monday quarterback. So I guess they really like Buddy Hield as far as a shooter. Can he turn into a two-way player? Does that make Ben McLemore expendable? Maybe that he might be in a deal as well moving forward, because you got Bogdanovich, and then when you look at Malachi Richardson's development as of late, even though he just pulled his hamstring. So this is, it's going to be interesting to see what is the direction, because for some time now, Fallon, I have been asking the question of, what is the style of play going to be for the Kings? Now, is it going to be up-tempo, three-point shooting? Because obviously Buddy Hield is a knockdown three-point shooter. They have some holes that they need to fill, and now that Vlade has a cachet of picks and different things with Bogdan coming over next year, it'll be interesting to see what is going to be the formulation of what the Kings are from now moving forward.
Well, let's talk about what this means for the Kings this season. They're on the outside looking in for that 8th and final playoff spot, Doug. Their goal, of course, was to make the postseason. So what does this mean for the rest of the season for the Kings?
Fallon, I think that you can scrap that. You just asked me a question I think you knew the answer to. I would say that now the Kings pick, which was top 10 protected, that meant that, 10 other teams, the Kings have to finish with 10 other teams. And the fact that their pick is probably going to be safe now, because they're going to drop out of that 8th seed in the playoff race and all those different things. So if that's the case, now you got a first-round pick that's top 3 protected. You have your first-round pick. So now you got 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick. So I would say that the Kings probably drop out of the playoff race rather quickly, because you're going to be developing young players, and on a night-to-night basis, now you're probably going to see a lot of Willie Cauley-Stein. You're going to see a lot. You might even see Papagiannis. Scal is probably going to hit the floor. I mean, if you are going to make this type of move, you definitely have to develop your young players for moving forward.
Well, how far away do you think the Kings are from making the postseason?
That's going to be, it's always been for me, Fallon, stylistically. Like, you have to, if you look at the really good teams, Golden State, if you look at San Antonio, even Cleveland, these teams have a style of play. When you talk about them, you say, oh, that's their style. And now the Kings have to define. When I was playing with the Kings in the early 2000s with Vlade and Chris Webber and Mike and those guys, we had a style of play. It was very plain. It was right in your face. Now the Kings have to decide, what is that going to be? As well as, when you get these young players, you usually need 2 to 3 years, unless they are just an absolute stud and hit the ground running, which doesn't happen too often, especially looking at this year's draft. It's going to take probably 2 or 3 years to start to build that culture and define that. So I would say, unless something magical happens with the Kings and maybe a free agent signing, probably 2 to 3 years away.
So fans need to be patient, huh, Doug?
Yes, get a Snickers.
All right, so Boogie and the Brow, they joined forces. Dangerous front court right there. How much better do you think the Pelicans just got?
Oh, my goodness. I would say right away that they would probably surge past Denver, and I would say that they're going to probably get into that 8th spot. Now, they are going to have to pair that with some shooting, seeing that they gave away Buddy Hield. But this is, this is a Pelicans team that, since they, got people back in the fold, because it took a little bit for them to get going this year. They started playing well. Now you got an all-star MVP, and, when you look at Drew Holiday as a point guard, I absolutely love him. He is a really good player. Now you're going to have to start to develop some of your younger players and get them out there with them, because Langston Galloway came over this way. Will Solomon Hill do anything? Terrence Jones, they have a bigger team, but they are going to need some valuable guard play if they're going to make any type of rumblings in the playoffs.
Well, Doug, this is going to be exciting. The Kings and Pelicans, they clash in New Orleans on March 31st. What do you think that's going to be like?
I would say, Down, it's going to be Boogie in the Brow down in the Big Easy, and I would say Boogie probably puts a 40 or 50 ball up on the Kings. I mean, from what I'm understanding, from what I'm reading, and the people that I've talked to, like I said, his camp was caught totally off guard. I'm sure that they're not happy about this. What does this cost you as far as contract goes? Because the Kings were in the best position. I believe it was $217 or $19 million that he would have been able to sign in like a 6-year deal. Mm-hmm. Now that he is not grandfathered into that with the Kings, I believe that he probably 50, 60 million. I'm just speaking here, Fallon. I don't know the exact figures, but he's lost quite a bit of money. So when you put all that together, down in the Big Easy, I would say that he absolutely goes after the Kings.
Well, Boogie is a competitor, and obviously that passion is shown on the court. He wants to win. So in the end, don't you think he's going to be happy about this trade?
I don't really know. Sometimes what ends up happening with trades, Fallon, is that you don't know, and then once it happens, you find that you're like, oh, you know what? This is actually, it worked out for me. It was good for me. Boogie has always stated that this is where he wants to be. He loves Sacramento. He loved playing in Sacramento, even with all the hubbub around trade Boogie and all these different things. He had never once went in any different direction. He's always said this is where he wants to be. So from that standpoint, I don't know. Once he gets there and sees it in a different light and now paired with another superstar, he might absolutely enjoy himself.
Well, being a former player, what do you think that his teammates on the Sacramento Kings are feeling right now?
Loss. When you're, and they've been playing together, he's been an absolute incredible teammate this year. I mean, he's encouraged guys. They've lost big games like they did to Phoenix, who was last in the Western Conference. Then the next night they come back and beat Golden State, that's first in the conference, and they've supported each other very positively, I might add, through a lot of different ups and downs. And when something like this hits, it's a tough one in the locker room. It's just like, wow, I've been traded before. I've been on teams where guys were traded before, and it can leave a real gash and a wound. But this is the profession that you've chosen, and you have to figure out how do you stay professional and how do you figure out to go do your job, because just like it happened to Boogie, it can happen to anybody.
Well, I'm assuming Dave Joerger did not have a say in this trade. What do you think his thoughts are on this move?
Well, I would be surprised if Coach Joerger, I would think that they were all on the same page when you pull the trigger on something like this and this big. I would say that Coach Joerger and Vivek and Vlade, probably, I don't know for sure, got together and, had a conversation about direction, because even though Vlade is the general manager, Vivek is the owner, Joerger has to coach the team. And really for the synergy, Fallon, to work properly, that's like when we see what's happening with the 49ers, and you hire a general manager before you hire the head coach before you hire the general manager. Usually that doesn't work because there's a pecking order. So I would think that they were all on the same page, because the direction from this point moving forward is so I can't even state it enough, so vitally important.
All right, Doug, thank you so much for jumping on the phone with us.